Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny with another update for you, and I'm going to read scripture from Luke chapter 19, verse 8, and the first part of verse 9. Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, "Look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much." Then Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house. This is the word of life. Thanks be to God." We're continuing our worship series about Jubilee, this thread of ideas and practices that weaves all the way through Scripture, from creation, through the prophet, through the Exodus, and then the prophets and Jesus, and on and beyond, where it's God's time to shine. God is doing God's very best work for us, on our behalf, through us, in us, among us, around us, bringing us fully into God's kingdom, back to that garden that God created for us in the first place. And this week, the theme word is liberation. We are looking at the ways that God liberates us. That God's orientation to us is always to free us, to make us a more free people, to liberate us from anything that binds us and holds us captive and seeks to enslave us. And, one of the challenges for us is that for many of us, in kind of where most of us find ourselves in the world, in a relatively comfortable place, relatively, speaking, in our society, is that many of us don't know what we need to be liberated from. In fact, many of us don't even think we need to be liberated from anything in particular. And so it becomes really challenging to even talk about this. So one way I invite you to prepare for this and to think about this, to get into this sort of space, is to think about your younger self. I'm going to assume that not a lot of children are watching this, although children can even do this too. But to think about something that used to kind of rule you, something that used to determine a lot of what you did or how you thought or how you behaved, and how you might have been freed from that or awakened to that. So for example, you can look back at a younger version of you and go, "Oh wow, that younger self, they didn't know that that they had the choices that you do now," right? Or that younger self, if only I could have told them that they didn't have to worry so much about what people thought about them. Or younger self, I wish I could have said to them earlier on that didn't have to work so hard to live up to their parents' expectations, or something along those lines. Maybe there are other examples that you can come up with, but most of us have been liberated from something along the way. And I would venture to say that all of us have something that we still need to be liberated from. In fact, this is part of the discipleship journey, is that we keep discovering ways, God keeps revealing ways, Jesus keeps opening us up to ways that we do need to be liberated. In fact, when we look at Jesus' ministry, we can keep seeing how Jesus is going around liberating people all over the place. Some of them beg for Jesus to liberate them from paralysis, or from the skin disease, or from whatever ailment they're experiencing. Other people are very resistant to Jesus' liberating work. Some are very resistant to Jesus' liberating work in other people. They get really upset and angry when people start to become free and rejoin society, or push against the boundaries in society that are keeping them blocked and apart. And other times people get really upset at Jesus saying, "You need to be liberated from something." But Zacchaeus is an example of someone who somehow that message comes through and he is liberated from a whole bunch of stuff all of a sudden, very quickly, and maybe it didn't happen quite as suddenly as the story makes it out to be, but he is not as resistant. In fact, he's ready. He's ready for this liberation. He's ready to let go of so many of the things that have held him captive and kept him from being a liberated person. And we're going to explore that more on Sunday. But I think one of the things that I just want to leave you with as you continue to look back and see how you have already experienced liberation is to leave you with that idea that we all have more that we need to be liberated from, that God is inviting us into a different level of liberation, and Jesus keeps revealing that to us and giving us the kind of liberating experience that sometimes we know we need, and sometimes we know we want, and sometimes we're really resistant to. So how do you need liberation to come more fully into your life these days? So on Sunday, also, I want to let you know that you can come again to worship on Sunday. There is space still for you to come and sign up for a seat in worship. Know too that it is different. It is different when you come in to worship. We've had now one Sunday under our belts with inviting people to come back for in-person worship. We are inviting people to come again, and it's just different. So we're going to keep living into this, leaning into this, and helping each other through. But it was joyful. It was a joyful thing to have people, real people, preaching to them, not just to a camera, inviting people in to experience their responses and presence in the midst of worship. So if you are in the place of feeling comfortable coming back into worship, know that there is space for you this coming Sunday, at least at this moment. A couple of other words, because these are two big things. There's been a lot of stuff happening these days, and it's been a lot. So I know you have questions, and I know you have lots of things floating through your own mind on top of what's going on in your own life. But I know that worship live stream has been pretty spotty the past few Sundays, and I want to tell you a little bit about why. In fact, it's because we're moving into fully hybrid worship instead of just doing live streaming. Now, sometimes there are things that happen that are beyond our control. There's nothing we can do if the internet just has a blip. That's not something we're doing. It's not something we're not doing. It just happens. But that's not all that's been happening the last couple of weeks. It's actually been as we are shifting the technology so that people in the sanctuary are having as high quality experience as you're having at home. The people at home are finding that they're having interruptions as well. So we know what needs to happen. The equipment that we need has been ordered. We hope that you will only see improvement from here on out, but I just wanted to let you know that that it's messy. These transitions are messy. That's part of change, as I've been talking about through the newsletter and through other things. This is a transition. It's actually harder to do what we're going to be doing, what we're moving into, than it is to just do live streaming. So when we are doing both in person and live streaming, it requires more. It requires more equipment, it requires more technology, power, all those kinds of things. So we're getting there. Please have patience with us, and we're doing as much as we can to get there as quickly as we can. And the last thing I want to say is just another word about the announcement that you would have gotten this past Monday about our new partnership with Princeton United Methodist Church. I know that you've got questions. I know you're trying to figure out what all this means and what might have brought this about, and I know that you've got questions. So feel free to email your questions. We'll try to keep answering them. We may not be a direct answer to your email. It may continue to be through these periodic updates. I know one of the questions that you have is what exactly will Skitch's role be with us. We are still working on that. I have ideas about that, but due to a number of things like vacations that are happening, and needing to kind of put lots of things on the table so that we can then sort it out. We might not have a good answer to that for another couple weeks, but as we learn things and understand things and come to agreements about things, we're going to keep telling you more of what is happening as we can. So I know that it's hard. I know change is hard. It's messy. It involves loss. It involves uncertainty. It involves just lots of questions. So keep asking your questions. You've asked good questions, and we want to know what they are. And we're going to keep trying to give you answers. It's hard to live in the uncertainty. This is what we call a liminal space, and we've been living in some sort of liminal space for a long time now, a year and a half now, and it just kind of keeps getting layered on. But you're doing great. You're doing great, and you are, again, I'm just so proud of the questions you are asking, and keep asking them, and we'll keep trying to give you more information as we go along. Blessings and love, sending that all to you this day. Remember that you are enough because God is enough. May you rest in that knowledge today once more.